The Witch. At the start of October, I conjured 13 souls. The 13 terrified you and infested the land. But I had to inhabit a body in order to do this. Her name was Charlotte. She transformed into me in more ways than one.
So, today I've got a surprise bonus 14th tutorial for you. And it's a nod to the woman that started the whole thing. So grab your glass of wine and raise a glass to the witch.
The film The Wretched came out amongst very little fanfare, like most films in 2020, unfortunately due to the pandemic. So it didn't come out at the cinemas, so many of you may not have seen it. I haven't actually seen it myself, but I was very impressed by the poster and the promotional images that came out featuring this very spooky animal mask. So I decided to create the animal mask as well as the witch makeup, and you have a choice. You can either make the animal mask and do the makeup for underneath, or just make the animal mask to scare people with this Halloween. Anyway, so in order to make the mask, you first start off by making an armature out of foil. This will form the basis of your mask, so just gently shape it around a face cast. If you don't have a face cast, you can actually shape it around a polystyrene face or one of those kind of doll head things, you know, those things that you practice hair on. You could even shape it over your own face, but if you do so, make sure you're very, very careful and make sure you pad it out with lots of newspaper so that it holds its shape when you're doing the next stages. Your main goal at this stage is just to create a basic shape for the mask and ensure that it fits your face. And you want to then create the other parts of the mask, like the horns and the long kind of snout area that you would have on an animal mask. So use the animal mask picture as reference from the film and just create the horns with some wire and foil and some more tape, and create the long snout part. I don't know quite what else to call that. The long snout part with some more foil, which you also tape down, and then just bulk out the details with some paper clay. Now this just smooths on, and you can smooth it with a little bit of water and some tools, and then it just air dries and hardens. You don't need to make this perfect because you'll be paper macheing over this whole thing anyway. You just want to create the basic shape. So don't obsess too much over getting this nice and smooth. Just make sure that you have the basic shape in place. Once you're happy with that basic shape, it's time to move on to paper mache. Now I started off with some brown paper, which I tore up, and then I mixed some PVA with some water, and I soaked the brown paper and started smoothing over the mask. But I very quickly realised that the brown paper was a little bit too thick and not very easy to shape around the more curved areas of the mask, so I soon moved on to newspaper, which was a lot easier. There you just saw me marking out the eye holes of the mask, because obviously you don't want to paper mache over these because you'll be cutting them out so that you can see through the mask. So just smooth on the paper mache. You want to smooth on about 4 layers in total, because then you'll make sure that the mask is nice and hard and will hold its shape. Once you finish with the paper macheing, if you find that some of the details still need a little bit of refining, you can do what I'm doing here, which is just to smooth on some cotton wool dipped in the same PVA solution that you use for your paper mache. This just smooths on in the way that latex and cotton wool does when you're doing makeup looks, and it just allows you to create a little bit more bulk and a little bit more definition in certain areas. Once everything is dry and hardened, you want to cut out those eye holes so that you can see. Don't worry, we will be sorting out around those eye holes later. Now, granted, this does look a little bit of a mess at the moment, so it's time to move on to a basic paint job before we move on to refining around those eyes. So I just mixed up this kind of off-white creamy colour to do as my base colour, and this was just a little bit of yellow ochre mixed with white, and then I just painted this over the entire mask just to provide a base. And also painting it all one blank colour just gives you an idea of where you need to refine the look, where you need to add a little bit more definition and a little bit more detail. When everything's all different colours like on the newspaper, it's a lot harder to see where you need to sort out details on the mask. So once you've done that and it's dried, you can then go in with some more of that cotton wool mixed with PVA just to smooth around those eye holes to make sure they look nice and rounded and not all jagged, and to make sure the mask is more comfortable to wear. I also use this same technique incidentally to create some more definition and detailing down that snout bit. I wish I knew what that was actually called. I don't suppose it actually has really got a name. It's just part of the skull, but you all know what I mean, Beauts. So you can see that I'm just creating that detail there with my fingers and with my spatula. Once you're happy with all the detailing, you need to leave it to dry. This will probably take overnight, but you can speed it up a little bit with a hairdryer, or if you put it somewhere warm, like on top of a radiator or in an airing cupboard. And once it's all dry and hardened, you can then go back in with some more of that base tone over those white areas, and then you can start adding in some more detail to the skull. The animal skull on the film posters is quite kind of rustic and aged looking, so I just went in with lots of yellowy browny tones and then deeper brown tones just to add lots of aging effects and definition around the raised areas and the more deep areas, and just to make it look all nasty and grungy. So I'm not going to talk you through this, I'm just going to let you watch and enjoy. One finishing touch you can add if you so wish is to add a layer of varnish over the mask to protect it. I didn't do that because this was just for the photographs, but you can do that if you plan to wear this out anywhere, just so that it's a bit more weatherproof and sweatproof and that kind of thing. Oh, and incidentally, I painted this nice line down the centre because that was a detail that was in the film poster. Moving on to the makeup, now you are going to create your witch to go underneath the animal skull. So you want to start out by blocking out your eyebrows. Once you've blocked out your eyebrows, moving on to the forehead. Now for this, I decided to use a Tinsley transfer. This is a Prosade transfer, and I've never used anything like this before, so this was a learning curve. So you peel it off the backing, you put it onto the paper backing that comes with it, you cut it out, you flip it over and you draw roughly where the piece is so that when you put it on your face you know where to place it. You then clean the skin that you're going to put it on so there's no grease and it sticks better. You press it into place and then you wet the back. It's much like putting on a temporary tattoo if you've ever done that, but there are full instructions on the pack, so if you do decide to use one of these, then just read the instructions and go with it. It was a little bit scary because I was a bit worried that I was going to put it in the wrong place, and I only had one, so it had to go right the first time, but ta-da! It worked and it looked amazing and it moved really well with my face. It felt really comfortable. All in all, I was very, very impressed, and I'm going to be using more of these in the future. I may even try making my own. Anyway, just to clean up those edges, I went in with some isopropyl alcohol and just dissolved those edges away just to get a really, really lovely smooth edge on that prosthetic. Be very careful using isopropyl around your eyes. And then for the lower half of the face, because the witch in the Wretched has this kind of funny, almost torn away looking lower face. So I went in with some good old latex and cotton wool for this because I couldn't find a ready-made prosthetic that suited this look, but it worked really well in combination with the prosthetic. I have to say, I was very pleased with the final outcome, and I actually felt like I really had transformed into that witch. It was strange, really strange. I felt different when I had this makeup on. But anyway, moving on. So you want to create that kind of ridge effect along the nose and around the cheeks to create that torn away lower jaw part, and then just create some texture on that lower jaw with some wisps of cotton wool and latex, and then create some wrinkles around that top area with some more latex and cotton wool. Leave that to dry, and then you want to go in with some face paints. So I just stippled a very watered down grey all over the entire thing, the latex and cotton wool, the transfer, and excuse me, I picked up something in my throat. There's something very strange
is happening to my voice.
Sorry about that, Beauts. Right, getting back to the tutorial. So in some of the areas I needed a bit more heavy paint job, so I went in with a brush, and then once that grey had dried, I went over with some reddy tone, just stippled it on, and it was a very watered down colour, the same as the grey, and then I went over that with some white, and then over with some more grey. You want to layer this so that it looks more realistic and it looks like the colours are under the skin rather than just one solid colour. I then started painting sorry, Beauts.
Something's happening to my voice again. It's going very strange. It almost feels like something's taking over me.
But anyway, I think I'm just tired. Anyway, so I painted the lower half of the face with these reddy tones and a little bit of brown and purple, as you can see. And then I went around my eyes with some black to create these kind of sunken looking eye sockets. You want to look really, really evil because this witch is very evil and very powerful.
She's very powerful.
Sorry, Beauts. I don't know what's happening. Something strange keeps happening when I'm trying to record this voiceover. Anyway, moving on. So I went into the deeper details on that Tinsley transfer, just to, just show up those details a little bit more. And I just used a very watered down black for this, and then just blended it with a fluffy brush. And you can see the witch is really, really starting to take shape now. Almost like she's kind of taking over me. It's very strange. Very, very strange. Very strange indeed.
Well, it's me, the witch. I told you I was going to inhabit this MUA. She was going to transform into me in more ways than one, and she got a lot more than she bargained for. Beauts. That's what she calls you, isn't it? Beauts. What a ridiculous name. My work is done. I've possessed the makeup artist. terrified you all. Shh. 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 My beauties. The witch is coming for you.